We have so many FBI NA grads in the Royal Thai Police, and they are so proud to be part of the FBI family. And as luck would have it here, David Carradine's body was found at the Swiss Hotel, Nylert Hotel, and the police station that covered it, called Lumpini Station, was run by an FBI NA grad. Family said, we heard ladyboys were in his hotel room and they robbed and killed him. I called Colonel Boong and said, I need assistance here. The Carradine family is asking the FBI for help, and what can you do for me? I contacted my legat, said, Dan, we got this. This is covered. The Thai police, their final decision, their cause of death, I believe is correct. And Dan said, fine, go and please send an email to the FBI director's office.
Welcome to episode 378 of FBI Case File Review with Jerry Williams. I'm a retired agent on a mission to show you who the FBI is and what the FBI does through my books, my blog, and my podcast case reviews with former colleagues. Today, we get to speak to retired agent John Schachnovsky, who served in the FBI for 20 years. In this episode, he reviews 3 cases he worked out of the FBI's legal attaché office in Bangkok, Thailand, involving a death, a murder, and a scam. John recounts the suspicious death of actor David Carradine, the identification of frozen body parts discovered in a freezer in Bangkok, and a transaction which originated in Memphis, Tennessee, but was resolved at a local bank in Thailand. John wrote about these investigations and many more in his soon-to-be-published memoir, Beyond the Badge, Crime, Justice, and the FBI in Thailand. The book is available for pre-order and will be in stores on December 9th. John Schachnovsky started his FBI career in San Francisco, working on the Mexican organized crime drug squad. While on the squad, he won an Investigative Excellence Award from OCDETF, the Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. He also worked on the 9/11 attacks investigation. He was assigned to investigate the actions of one of the 19 terrorists who had spent time in the Bay Area before the attacks. Later in his career, he was selected to be the assistant legal attaché in Bangkok, where he served for 4 years. He was next transferred to the International Operations Division at FBI headquarters before returning to Bangkok as the legal attaché, running all FBI operations in Thailand, Myanmar, and Laos. John was responsible for strategic partnerships with host countries, multilateral partners, and other U.S. law enforcement, intelligence, and diplomatic agencies, while coordinating and investigating intelligence collection and enforcement operations. Since his retirement from the FBI, John continues to live and work in Thailand as a security and law enforcement consultant for numerous multinational companies. Currently, he serves on the board and is an advisor for a risk management firm in Bangkok. I'm happy to report that during my recent vacation in Thailand, my family and I were able to meet up with John and his wife for lunch, where, with their guidance, we were able to taste just about everything on the menu. In the show notes for this episode, there's a photo of John and me outside the restaurant. And if you're interested, I've also posted more photos from my trip on social media and my November email to Reader Team members. In your podcast app's description of this episode, there's a link to the show notes at jerrywilliams.com. You'll also find links to where you can join my reader team about crime fiction and the FBI in books, TV, and movies, buy me a cup of coffee, and learn more about me and my books. Thank you for your support. Now here's the show. I want to welcome my guest, retired agent John Schachnovsky. Hey, John, how are you?
Great, Jerry. Great to be with you.
You know, I'm excited because it was meant to be that we were introduced to each other because I am going to Thailand. By the time this actually airs, I would have been to Thailand for 2 weeks and hopefully we'll have a chance to meet each other there. But when I saw that you had written your book, Beyond the Badge, Crime, Justice, and the FBI in Thailand, I was like, woohoo, yeah, I definitely want to interview that guy.
Well, I'm happy that was good timing on my part for us reaching out and talking. And if this is going to be aired after you come to Thailand, I'm going to assume you had a great time. We met and we had a blast.
Absolutely. I am sure that is exactly what's going to happen. And in reading your book, I've already learned a lot about Thailand, especially the part where you tell us over and over again how hot it is.
Yes, I'm like you coming is a good thing to read the book because preparation for the heat is important. I will say you're coming in October, so that is a time it's not as hot as April, May, and June, but it is definitely not jacket or sweater weather. Don't need to pack any of those things.
All right, good to know. I just finished reading your book, and again, I found it fascinating. And I think one of the things that we should probably talk about is the fact that you have lived in Thailand for 17 years, and 10 of those you were with the FBI assigned there. How did that happen?
So I was not a traveler in my youth, and my first office in the FBI was in San Francisco. And I just I bought a condo in San Francisco, and I looked for the closest gym near my condo. And it was a gym called a Muay Thai gym, which now I know is a kind of kickboxing. But I went to that gym and I joined that gym to get good exercise. And the owners of the gym were all Thai. And over the course of a year or two working out there, they told me, you should go check out Thailand. And I'll be honest, I didn't know really where Thailand was or about Thai culture at all. But I went with my wife on vacation there and fell in love with it immediately upon arrival. And then I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in Thailand. I contacted the legal attaché at the time and told him what I really wanted to come work there. My wife was a former DEA analyst. And there's a handful of offices in the world where the DEA has analysts and the FBI's legal attaché offices. And luckily for us, Bangkok was one of those spots. So made it my mission to try at least to have one tour in Thailand. I was able to follow the legal gave me a guidebook on what to do. He said, begin taking Thai classes on your own and take over an Asian organized crime squad, become supervisor of that if you can, and get a TDY to Thailand. And luckily for me, all of those things happened. I was able to do a TDY. I began taking Thai classes and I was able to get the ALAT job. And first week on the ALAT job, I remember telling my wife, I want to be ALAT. I want to go back to headquarters for a quick trip, maybe a year or two until they open up the LEGAT job, do the LEGAT job, and I want to retire in Thailand. And I'm not joking. I knew that immediately. I felt like it felt like home to me so quickly. And that's the path I followed. And luckily for me, it all kind of fell into place. So it was just, and my wife said to me, maybe you just love traveling. So we visited Japan and we visited Morocco. We did a few other trips over. We were lucky to travel a few places. And I said, honey, I love these places as well, but I really, really think I found my home in Thailand. And to this day, 17 years later, I love it like I loved it the first day and I consider it home.
How were you able to finagle an assignment for that long? Because and I've talked to a number of LEGATs and ALATs, as you know, and usually the assignment is like 2 to 3 years.
So when I went overseas, the International Operations Division at the time, the allowability was 5 years. You could do 5 years. So when I started at IOD and I first got my ALAT job overseas in Bangkok, the IOD requirements the allowabilities were for 5 years. You could do 5 years. There wasn't any, nowadays I've been told it's 3 years. You have to have a specific reason to do more. But when I went as the ALAT, you were allowed to do 5 years. So my first tour, I actually did 4 years because, and this is me, I'm a planner. I wanted to go back to headquarters and go back out as LEGAT again. So at the 4-year mark, I saw there was an opening at International Operations Division to cover Asia, to be the guy who covered Asia. So I went back there with the thought that I would do a year in headquarters and then try and go back out again as LEGAT whenever it opened. So it could have been 3 years. It could have been 2 years. My boss at the time had about a year to go. So I thought I'll do a year at headquarters and then put in for the LEGAT job. And maybe my language ability helped. Maybe the stars aligned correctly, but it wasn't like I didn't do 10 years back, at one time. I did 4 years as the ALAT, went back to headquarters for a year, and I did my last tour there. Now, I will say they gave me 6 years on the LEGAT tour. What I did was I said to them, if you give me one more year, I'm going to retire overseas. So you're not paying for the move back and all these things. And whatever memo I wrote worked. So they actually gave me a 1-year extension to do 6 years on the LEGAT tour to do a total of 10 years.
Well, are you a planner in all aspects of your life? Because you certainly had this part planned out.
I can't lie. If anybody, you ask my mother, my sister, or my wife, I am a planner. I always have been. Absolutely.
Well, good for you. Well, all I know is you are the person in Thailand for the FBI. I know there's probably a new ALAT and a new LEGAT there, but you certainly have made a lot of relationships and connections, and that's why you wrote the book.
It is. It is. I mean, I know any new LEGAT or ALAT that's come in. I've gotten pretty close to the new LEGAT now. Ben Virtue, really good guy. He and I get along real well. We meet all the time. And I've been retired since 2019, and I'm honored, and I'll say honored and lucky that the Thai police and the LEGAT office and headquarters, still, I have contacts there, and they still reach out to me with some questions about old cases or my opinion on certain things or how I would do a certain situation. Or if a Thai police officer who I knew years ago is promoted to a pretty high level, they'll ask me, what do I know about him or her, or those kind of things. So I'm still kind of, and I mentioned in the book, I'm still kind of in the mix, and I can't lie, I love it still.
Well, like I mentioned before, I've done a number of episodes about agents who are working representing the FBI overseas. But just to make sure, in case there's a new listener, could you talk about the work that's done there and really concentrating on the fact that you're not actually working cases, but you're helping to move leads forward?
Absolutely, absolutely. And depending on what LEGAT office you are in, your work might change a little bit, but the basics of overseas work are our number one priority is covering leads for agents in America. So an agent sitting in Chicago has somebody called, and I'll use my Thailand as the example. Somebody made a phone call to Thailand and they want to know who that person was they called in Thailand. An email address, a bank account. There's a connection to Thailand. They need to know what's going on. I am going to cover that lead. That's number one, most important. Number two is if the Thai police need assistance in America. So they have a request of one of our field offices. I will be the conduit to get that information into the hands of the agent in Chicago, for example, or LA, or your name, your field office. So it's us helping them and them helping us with covering leads. The next thing, which you'll see in my cases I'm going to talk about today, is some homegrown cases. So cases where there is no connection to the U.S. yet, but there is a need for the FBI's assistance. We always tell people all the time in foreign police agencies that we are here to assist you. There is a specific case number in the FBI for a foreign police cooperation matter. That is a catch-all where there is no case from the U.S. or there is no lead, but the local police in that foreign country need our assistance. So we are able to open a case and assist them because they need our help. Could it be because our FBI lab is so good? Could it be because our ability to track phones is so good? You name the reason, but the FBI, and I've listened to many of your episodes, and a common theme consistently is that the FBI has such a good name overseas and a great reputation. So a lot of these foreign police agencies say, we need your help because we know you're the FBI and you do this better than most. So those are kind of the things. And then on top of that, there's the smaller things where we do capacity building, which is just a FBI way to say we do training, we do teaching classes, we do training. So a couple other things. And then the last thing, of course, is the catch-all where in the embassy, if there's internal assistance, HSI or DEA or the U.S. Secret Service or the State Department, if they need our assistance as well, we're there for that. I tell people that I started in San Francisco, really big field office. So I was working on a squad, be it drugs or white collar. On our smaller offices in America, our RAs, our resident agencies, you're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none. I didn't have that. I was on a squad. But in the LEGAT land, you become that where anything comes in the door, it's your case. And I will say that if you're working in the Middle East, you may work a lot of terrorism. If you're working in South America, Central America, maybe drugs, Eastern Europe, cybercrime. Bangkok, we investigate maybe 300 violations of law, maybe a few more. We saw almost all of them in Bangkok. It was just anything goes, nationalities from anywhere. You're coming to visit, Jerry, and you probably already know this, but Bangkok is the most visited city in the world, and there isn't a close second. It's almost double number two, which I believe is Istanbul. So many people from all over the world come to Bangkok, good and bad.
That is amazing to me. I have heard that. I know I have, this desire to go because I travel all over the world, but I have always had a desire to go to Thailand, but I had no idea everybody else wanted to come too.
They do.
All right. So we talked about leads and the need for the FBI to have a role or to assist. And I think one of the first cases that we're going to talk about today, we're going to try to get in three. I know that we'll definitely talk about two, but one of the first ones was a one that was blasted internationally in the news. And that was because a very famous actor died in Thailand.
Yes, I'd only been in as the ALAT in Bangkok for a pretty short time. So I was still finding out where the bathroom was kind of thing. But it was back in June of 2009, the actor David Carradine, who was, for your listeners who watch Kill Bill, he's from Kill Bill. I wasn't a big fan, but he was in a TV show called Kung Fu. That was his big first show back many years ago. But he was also in Kill Bill, many, many movies. His brother Keith, also very famous. So the Carradine family is a pretty famous name. Wasn't as known by a lot of the Thais, and I'll get into that when I begin the case study, but I'd been in from December of 2008 when I arrived as ALAT. So we're talking June 2009. I'd been in about six and a half months. And I didn't hear about this from the Thai police, didn't hear about this from the FBI at first. My family actually had seen on TV breaking news that David Carradine's found dead in a hotel in Thailand, which happens sometimes because some things breaking news, because CNN's obviously on the ground in Thailand also. So this isn't the first time or the last time where I heard about things that happened in Bangkok from family or friends, because either I didn't see it on the news yet, or I wasn't tracking, or it actually wasn't massive news in Thailand. It was big news in the US. So my family called me and said, hey, we heard David Carradine was found in a hotel dead. So listeners also, just because an American is dead in a foreign country does not make it an FBI case. There's just many people end up dead all over the world all the time, and Americans, other nationalities, and it doesn't automatically trigger that the US government's going to do an investigation. They called me and said, did you hear about this? And I obviously checked online. I immediately saw it. And that was on June 4th. And then I started tracking it. Once again, not thinking it'd be an FBI case. June 5th comes, and there's a TV show now, no longer, of course, on CNN called Larry King Live. And on Larry King, the family of David Carradine, Keith Carradine, his brother, celebrity attorney Mark Garagos, they were on CNN on Larry King Live discussing his death. And they were talking about how they did not believe the original report that he committed suicide. They believe there had to have been foul play. There's no way that he would commit suicide. And there's a little bit in there of, hey, Thailand's a third world country. We don't trust it. So we're not really sure this happened. There's got to be more to the story, which piqued my interest a little bit. Thai police are an amazing organization. I'll get much more into that as we go along. But that immediately I thought to myself, this is interesting. They're kind of calling out Thailand. So they then say in the broadcast they reached out to the FBI for assistance. Then I thought, okay, maybe I'll hear something. So this was on June 5th, which was a Friday. And then the 6th, the Saturday, I get the call from my legat. I was ALAT, my legat, Dan Kelly. He contacted me, and he was working a separate case. He was out of town working a different case, and said, John, I need your assistance on this. The Carradine family has contacted FBI and asked for assistance. And the FBI had said, we need you to help. And the interesting part of this is the request for assistance from the FBI when they contacted us, headquarters did, was kind of twofold. One was, of course, celebrity death. We want to assist. Obviously, we want to make sure they're getting the answers they want. They're going public, and the FBI wants to make sure that we're able to handle this and give closure to the family and make sure there's no questions. But the second thing is that director at the time was Director Bob Mueller, was our director at the time. And he was actually, coincidentally, that next week, he was going to be flying out to LA to give an award to the star of the old FBI TV show, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. So it was going to be an award, just an honorary award for all of us, it was a good show for the FBI over the years. He was going to get an award for it. So the concern the FBI headquarters had was that when he lands in LA, it'll be news media, but you're going to have some Hollywood press as well. And this death of David Carradine just so happened to happen the day before. So the concern was Director Mueller might be getting questions about David Carradine as well. So he wanted information when he landed to be able to say, okay, he has answers as well. So that was kind of twofold on why. Of course, we'd say yes, but also this extra need for assistance.
But that puts a little bit of pressure on you, though.
You want to say a little bit? I'll say a lot, Jerry. Once again, been on the ground 6 months. Great. Here we go. I'll be sent home soon, I'm thinking. So I get the call from Dan on Saturday. And one thing I think that many of your previous guests have talked about is the FBI National Academy. The FBI National Academy is a course we do in Quantico at the Academy for local police in the U.S., be it NYPD, LAPD, name your department, but also a section of the class is always foreign police officers. And they go and they get to have classes taught by FBI agents and experts in different areas. And they are very proud of being FBI National Academy FBI NA grads. Well, the Thai police are on the tip of that. We have so many FBI NA grads in the Royal Thai Police, and they are so proud to be part of the FBI family. So a lot of times, cases that I worked, I would try and find, is there an FBI NA grad part of this case? And as luck would have it here, David Carradine's body was found at the Swiss Hotel, Nylert Hotel, and the police station that covered it, called Lumpini Station, was run by an FBI NA grad. I will not give you his full name because Thai names are very, very long. His nickname is Boong, B-U-N-G. So I called Colonel Boong and said, Colonel Boong, I need assistance here. The Carradine family is asking the FBI for help, and what can you do for me? And as you might think, any police officer being called and said, I want to help you, the first thought you worry about is, are we checking up on their work? We don't trust what they did, which I said, Colonel Boong, this is not what's happening here. He's a celebrity. I mentioned what's happening to Director Mueller, and just whatever you can do for me. And like any FBI NA grad, he could not have been more amazing. He said, John, hop on a motorbike, get to the hotel. I'll have my case officer meet you there, and he'll walk you through everything, and you can do whatever you need to do.
Even though you stressed to him that you weren't checking up on his work, the media was telling you that the family and the attorneys didn't trust their work.
That's correct. And Colonel Boong knew that. I mean, he's not an idiot. He saw the press that was making it, and made press in Thailand as well, the questioning of the case. So he knew that. And, I'm sure part of it was that he wanted to make sure that they definitely will know if the FBI comes in and kind of puts a stamp of approval on their case, that'll help them as well. So for sure, absolutely, Jerry. I think he wanted to help me, but I think he knew that us getting involved, as I said to you before, the FBI has a great reputation to this day still in Thailand. So I think that me getting involved wouldn't really hurt the fact that it'll make their case look even better if we kind of acknowledge their work was done correctly. That's correct. So next day I got in a bike, went to the Swiss hotel and met his case officer, and we sat down in the lobby area, and I said, just curiosity, it's been since Thursday. And he said, John, the room is as it was, except for the body's obviously been taken out. But we go to the room next, it'll be as is. On Larry King, and through some rumor mill, there was a discussion about that he died of what is called autoerotic asphyxiation, which if you want me to, I can go into that. But what it really basically is a accidental death while somebody is trying to choke themselves while they're also sexually pleasuring themselves. And there's been a couple of celebrities. I know the lead singer of NXS, the band NXS, he died that way as well. So there's been some celebrities that have died this way. But there was some discussion that in his past that he was known to maybe do this, but the family was not buying it. They thought it didn't happen. That's not what happened. But there was some discussion. The Thai police had first kind of let that leak a little bit. That's how he died.
Which is different, way different than somebody committing suicide.
Absolutely.
That would be what he was doing was an accident.
Correct. It was an accidental death.
And not intentional.
That's right. He's 71 years old now. So we come to find out that he did this a lot during his life. And when you do this when you're 50 years old or 40 years old, when you're 71, 72 years old, your reflexes are a little bit different. So as you get older, it becomes it's always a dangerous act. Very dangerous at any age, of course. But as a 71, 72-year-old, as he was around the time, it becomes even more problematic. And the thought being that maybe that's how he died, because he is just a little bit older and his reflexes and how you do this, he was not able to do what he normally did, to put it as clean as I can.
We don't need to go into anatomical detail, but I do think that we need to talk about why there was initially thought it could be a suicide, and then they realized that it was, this autosexual asphyxiation.
Autoerotic asphyxiation. So he was found in a closet, and when I sat down with the officer, he showed me 100 pictures of David Carradine hanging in a closet, and he had a rope tied around his neck and a rope tied around his genitals. So first glance, this is not what you think. If you're a police officer, the first thing you think is he committed suicide, because there's a rope around his neck. And until you get maybe an autopsy or get a forensic scientist in there, a forensic pathologist in there, I think a low-level, entry-level police officer, and probably in Thailand, this is not a very normal thing. So to see somebody hanging in a closet with a rope around their neck, the first thought is going to be suicide, almost always. And then when you dig a little bit deeper, which someone did, after the first report came in, then you had higher-level officers, forensic scientists show up. They're going to see the whole situation and say, wait a minute, this looks like it could be autoerotic asphyxiation. And that's kind of how it came out. The original call from the police was probable suicide. And then as the hours went on, the rumor kind of came out that it was autoerotic asphyxiation. There were actually some photos that were leaked, but they were able to pull those back. And then you had that possibility in Thailand. But once it gets to America on CNN with the family, no one wants to believe that. No one wants to. And, there could be a combination, Jerry. You want to protect the legacy of this guy. That is not some way that this person should be killed. You don't want your family member to die this way. So the original rumors were that they came out and thought, hey, it's Thailand. I mean, there were rumors that transgenders, the term for in Thailand for transgender is ladyboy. So the family said, we've heard ladyboys were in his hotel room and they robbed and killed him. We've heard he was mugged, or, there were so many different things that were being tossed in the mix. Maybe the family did believe it or not believe, but there was definitely, they were putting out there that there's possibility. We know a lot of times that transgender ladyboys will go and they'll rob people, which isn't untrue. It's happened. So we heard those things as well. And that's why I think I got involved. Got to get to the bottom of this. The Thai police are saying this. The family doesn't believe it. And the FBI is going to be here to try and make sure that the right answer is the one that's publicized or put out there or given to the family.
And of course, if this were to happen in the U.S., we wouldn't be involved at all as an agency.
No, we would not be involved as an agency. It would be a local police issue. Obviously, the same as overseas. If somebody asked for our assistance, we would say yes. But on the surface of this would not be an FBI case for sure. I sat down, I saw the photos. I said, okay, this looks to me like what you guys are saying, autoerotic asphyxiation. But also remember, if this is going to be foul play, and if it's known by anybody that this is the kind of thing David Carradine's done, and you want to set up the scene of the room to make it look like he had an accidental death, this might be how you do it. So this isn't enough. Just to see the photos isn't enough, because if it is known, come to find out that, some people knew he did this, and not to fast forward a little bit, but he's been married multiple times. And we heard later on is that one of his wives divorced him pretty much for this kind of behavior. A lot of times divorce, it's easy to say, what are they, reconcilable differences? But one of his ex-wives specifically said for behavior that might injure him like this. So she didn't say these words, but it seems to us that she was probably saying this is something that he did for a while. So if you knew that and you wanted to do some kind of foul play or kill him, you might set the room up to look like this. So we needed to keep going. So I said, okay, fine. The thought is that if he was with somebody else, there's a couple of things we can do. So the next thing I did was go talk to the manager of the hotel, because in Thailand, some of Thailand's rumors and some of Thailand's reputation is true, some isn't. The fact that there's lots of ladies of the night in Thailand and go back to men's hotel rooms, that is true. So one thing that 5-star, 4-star, better hotels do is if anybody brings a visitor back to their room, the visitor, usually female, is required to leave their identification at the front desk. They leave it there for the safety of the person in the room and the safety of the person and the safety of the visitor. I went to the general manager and said, can you please check, did David Carradine have any visitors? And he said, no, he did not. So there's no ID. So, okay, that's one thing. Next thing, of course, the most important thing is CCTV. So is there a CCTV camera facing his door? And if so, can we check this out and see if anybody came in? And that was kind of the big one for us. We checked the CCTV, and from the time he checked in, he left to go. He was in Thailand to film a movie. And from the time he came back from whatever meetings he was at, he left his room to go downstairs to play the piano in the bar that we saw. He had a few drinks, went upstairs, but nobody else entered or exited his room except for him. And the next morning, when the cleaning staff found his body. So then we thought, okay, we've got no visitors. I've seen the photos and nobody entered or exited his room. We're pretty close to being 100% on this. And then one more thing I can add is that one of the things we definitely heard from the family and others was that the rope that was tied around his neck was from the blinds in his room. And immediately the officers showed me, actually no, the yellow rope that he used, he actually brought with him in a purple bag, looks like a kind of a Crown Royal bag. So then we said, okay, he does this so much that he brings his own equipment. So not only was it a rope that he brought himself, plus we had the CCTV, plus we had no visitors, and plus we find out that he has a proclivity for this. I was comfortable saying this death is autoerotic asphyxiation. And also money, lots of money that he had was on his bed. It had been in his wallet on the bed. He had valuables everywhere, which of course is a basic investigation. If it's a robbery, would there be things missing? And nothing was missing from what we saw. There was enough money there. If it was a robbery, it would have been taken. So we were sure there. So I contacted my legat, said, Dan, we got this. This is covered. The Thai police, their final decision, their cause of death, I believe is correct. And Dan said, fine, go and please send an email to the FBI director's office. I was there all day and I left the hotel hotel and at the time, Jerry, where you remember this, we had Blackberries. So I had my Blackberry and I was going to go home and sit in my apartment and send a message to Director Mueller's office. And I got to the metro station and the metro station was closed. There was a fence. It was late at night. The fence was down the station. And I remember this like it's yesterday. I'm sitting down on the steps of a metro station in Bangkok, typing an email to Director Mueller and saying, Director Mueller, you don't know me, but, and actually I hadn't met him before. He was actually, he was the U.S. attorney in San Francisco when I was an agent there. So I think I met him in passing. I think I tried to build rapport with the guy and say, hey, Director Mueller, you might have met me once when I was in San Francisco, but I'm emailing you today because you're going to be landing in LA pretty soon. And I want you to have this report on what happened to David Carradine. So it's one of those many, many moments as a legat or ALAT where you say to yourself, how did I get myself into this position? And so I sent the message to Director Mueller's office. I got a response of a thank you, nothing more than that. I don't even know to this day if they actually asked him the questions, but he was prepared if they did.
And that's one thing that we should probably bring up now is the 12-hour difference between Thailand and the U.S.
Yeah.
So a lot of times when you're asked to do things or you're communicating with headquarters or agents in other cities in the U.S., you should be sleeping.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a big part. So if you're in London, it's only, 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever it is ahead. I should know. I don't know what it is. But if you're in Bangkok, half the year, we don't have daylight savings time in Thailand. So half the year at 12 hours, half the year 11 hours. But yes, the funny part for me was there was never a time of the day when FBI headquarters was open that I was in the office. And then I go home and they open the office in headquarters and I'm home. So I mentioned in the book this a few times where I definitely had very little downtime. I was in the embassy and I'm working on my Bangkok stuff, talking to the Thai police, the internal embassy stuff, but the headquarters things, that all kicked in when I got home. So I get home at, 6, 7 p.m. at night and, by 8 a.m. headquarters is opening up. So I would have my phone on all night. Luckily, most agents would Google what time is it in Thailand before they get a hold of me. But once a week, I'd have an email begin. I'm not sure what time it is there, but I have a case and I have to say, all right, well, can we do this tomorrow? Usually I'd have obviously an emergency, no problem. But the first few years, it took me, I had to have a little bit of patience on the midnight emails asking me hey, I have a lead. Who do I send it to? I'm like, well, you don't send it at 2 a.m. I'll tell you that.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
All right. And then we have another case that was something probably if you were in the U.S., you wouldn't have handled either. And that's the case where the body parts were found in the freezer. But I'm getting ahead of the story. Why don't you take us from the very beginning?
That's okay. If any listeners were going to turn it off, now they'll stick around. They heard body parts. So now they won't hang up on us here. Yeah, I mean, and this generally goes to what I said at the beginning, where not all cases are FBI leads or an FBI case. So I chose two of these cases. I chose our cases where they originated. I mean, David Carradine died in Thailand, and that's where it all began. This case started 100% from the Thai police. So also, oddly enough, end of the week, which is kind of a common theme, I guess, here. But it was a Friday afternoon back in 2016, September 2016. I remember this. I was going to pick up my son. I think it was at a play date at somebody's house. And I was going to pick up my son and waiting for him. And my phone buzzed. And in America, we use WhatsApp a lot. In other places in the world, they use different messaging apps. But in Thailand, they use a thing called Line, the Line application. It's big in Japan and big in Thailand. My line goes off and it's a close Royal Thai Police colleague of mine named Ott. And Ott contacted me and said, John, the Royal Thai Police just did a search warrant at a house in Bangkok. And they came across a bunch of passports. First thing he said was they did a search warrant. They entered the house and the Western man said he was going to go get his passport to show the police his passport. He went upstairs into his safe. He opened the safe and he pulled out a gun and he shot one of the Thai police officers. The police officer survived, got shot in the stomach. He survived, got taken to the hospital and survived. But the minute that happened, they took the guy into custody and they found more than 20 passports in his room. Some fake. They didn't know if they were fake. They were real. So he was asking me, basic question. He said, John, he has a bunch of US passports, British passports, other passports. Would you do me a favor? I'm going to send you online the photos of the passports. Can you assist me in verifying which of these passports, if any, are real and which are fake. I said, no problem. I mean, and for my purposes, it'd be pretty easy. I would contact the RSO, the regional security officer, who I'm good friends with, and send those to him, and he would do it for me. So I waited. About 10 minutes goes by, and I don't hear anything. So I'm thinking, all right, maybe he doesn't need me anymore. Then a message doesn't come in. The phone rings. It's not a message. And he says, John, we got a problem here. And he said, I'm not going to send you the passports, because they were doing a search after the shooting, and they opened up an industrial size freezer. And in the freezer, they found multiple black plastic bags. And in those bags, they found body parts. So can you hold on? We may need your assistance. Not sure. But right now, I'm going to hold off on the passports. I said, no problem at all. So once again, like David Carradine, this wouldn't be an FBI case originally. Thai police have an amazing ability to do these kinds of cases, even body parts. They have great forensic pathologists, all those things. So waited a little bit. Nothing really happened. Then later on in the evening, Ott called me and said, look, John, I need you to meet one of the officers working the case. They need your assistance. They need the FBI's assistance in, number one, identifying who the shooter was, and number two, identifying who the body is. They're going to try, but they believe with the FBI's lab and our ability, our fingerprint ability, our fingerprint system, they knew they had the shooter was Western, and they wanted to see if I could work that. And I have good contacts in the British government and all the different governments. So can I kind of be the conduit to see who this guy is, run his prints through all the different systems? With the frozen body, they found I say it was a frozen body, of course. With the body they found, can I assist that as well? Get the fingerprints, get them to the FBI lab, maybe see what we can do. I said, no problem at all. The next day, I met them outside the embassy, the Thai police, and they gave me the fingerprint card of the shooter, and they gave me the best they could give me on the body. Unfortunately, the body had been frozen for so long. I will tell you now that we found out later on, the body was there for 8 years. So wow. The fingerprints I said, give them to me. Our lab is amazing. I am not going to tell you they can't do it, but I can tell I've done enough fingerprint cards to know they were not good prints, Jerry.
Is there a reason that they thought this person may have been an American?
No. This goes back to we're the FBI. We can do everything. They wanted our assistance. I'd been in, this is 2016. So I had been in for a while. This is my second tour. I was actually back as legat. And I think that one of the things that I loved it there so much, not only did I make sure that I knew the Thai police, as I said before, I was very good friends with the British police. I mean, every country had police in Thailand. They're, as we said before, the most visited country in the world. So every single country with an embassy there are police stationed in Thailand. So I was friends with the Brits, the Australians, the Kiwis from New Zealand, the Germans. So we knew that both the shooter and the body were Western men probably. So the Thais could check their systems, which they would do, and check the immigration system. At the time, you did not need to give fingerprints when you entered Thailand. Now you do. So that system would have been tough to check. They probably wouldn't have had this guy's either prints in their system at the time. They thought, hey, John, FBI, what can you do? And in fact, there was no reason to believe that either were American. The shooter had passports from all over the world. So they definitely, at first, the first passport he showed them was actually a British passport. So they thought he might have been British, but he had so many. So no, that wasn't a thought. It was just, you're the FBI, you got to help us. So I went back and I sent the prints back into headquarters. So I didn't send the prints back. I ran the guy's information, all the different passports we ran through NCIC. I want to stress that, and he may or may not be listening, but Tom Vandenbrink, who was the regional security officer at the embassy, he and I kind of partnered on this. We did this together the entire way through. And since retirement, he and I have actually given presentations on this case. So he and I both kind of ran with this. He ran the names through his system. I ran through my system, all the different passports, all the different dates of birth, and we had no hits at all. So we ran the prints through the system to see what we could find. And through any kind of wanted system, NCIC, nothing came up. So we were kind of scrambling there a little bit. And the first thing we wanted to do was the bad guy. The frozen body was kind of secondary. I sent the prints back into headquarters to see if they could find anything. And they wanted me to give them about 48 hours to see if they could do anything. So in that time frame, and we're talking within a day of the body being found, Tom and I, this is happening on Friday. Tom and I did not sleep all week. We worked all weekend on this. We really wanted to show the Thais that the US government can do this. So we come back and finally we find the prints. The only place we find these fingerprints are a man named Herbert Craig Lafon had worked at a national laboratory in America, one of our national labs. And to work at a national lab, you have to do a background check. So we found this guy's name on a fingerprint card, just the prints and the name of Herbert Craig Lafon. And we thought, okay, this has got to be our guy. So quickly we thought, okay, Herbert Craig Lafon, who is Herbert Craig Lafon? Now, a couple of the 20 passports that he had or so, that name was on a couple of the passports. So, okay, is it possible he could have been faking the name of other names? Yes, but the prints probably don't lie. So we're thinking this is our guy, Herbert Craig Lafon. So we think we have him identified. So who is this guy? So I'm at my house in my condo in Bangkok, and Tom Vandenbrink contacts me and says, this is my most embarrassing moment. Didn't last very long, but I had an embarrassing moment where Tom contacted me and said, John, FBI, I think you made a mistake. This guy's wanted by the FBI. And you can imagine, Jerry, I'm like, I called all my contacts.
Yeah,
like, oh
how
my
did
God,
that
how did I miss this? I am the worst agent ever. So I go on there and I see, and he sends me through a chat app. It's a wanted poster of this guy, Herbert Craig Lafon. He's wanted out of Baltimore back in 1979 or something. He's wanted. So I immediately pick up the phone. And as we said before, times are different. So it's middle of the day in Thailand, but middle of the night in Baltimore. The fingerprint card is wanted out of Baltimore. So I contact Baltimore and say, okay, there's a fingerprint card out of your office. Can you please help me out? I got the agent on duty. And while this is happening, I'm on my computer, Googling. I'm kind of getting suspicious because the only place you can find this fingerprint card is FBIfingerprintcards.com, which I didn't know existed. There is a subset of society that collects fingerprint cards. I did not know that, but this guy's fingerprint card,
either.
It's kind of, whatever. It is what it is, I guess, Jerry. So his card is only there. It's nowhere else. There's no wanted. There's no news article, nothing. So the agent, I'm waiting a little while. The agent comes back on the phone and says, Agent Schachnovsky, here's the deal. He was wanted for fraud charges, but the star witness passed away very soon after the indictment. So they had enough time to make the fingerprint card, but the charges were dropped. So the card was still out there. The fingerprint card was made very quickly. I didn't know how quick we do this. We do it obviously very fast because he was wanted and the person passed away and the charges were dropped, but the fingerprint card still exists. So there were no charges pending. So I was able to call Tom back and say, Tom, I'm not as bad as I think I am. Yes, that card exists, but this guy is not wanted by us at all. He was wanted many years ago, but he's not a fugitive, not wanted anywhere. So our NCIC check saying he's not wanted was accurate. So the good news there is we were able to identify Herbert Craig Lafon. He's the guy who was wanted for at least putting a body in a freezer. There was other people living in the house, so we weren't able to charge, the Thais weren't able to charge immediately with him with the murder. When they interviewed him, he said, he admitted to putting the body in the freezer, but did not admit to killing the person, did not admit to any of that. He just said, I put it in the freezer. Why? We have no idea. He wasn't talking too much, but he didn't admit to the murder. But this was the guy, Herbert Craig Lafon. So we have that down. The next step is, who is the frozen body? So FBI gets back to me and says, John, you were right. We just can't get prints from this guy. It's too old. So we were kind of stuck. The Thai police were looking the next thing maybe to do. He had a lot of dental work and maybe we'll go check for dental work. We'll go to all the hospitals in Thailand and find expats or foreigners who had dental work. It would have been a pretty big stretch. So luckily, while we were preparing to do that, we had a pretty good break where I had a Royal Thai police officer contact me and he'd seen a lot of FBI movies and thought, hey, John, we know the FBI lab, what you guys do is you have every piece of clothing, every brand name, all these things cataloged. Is there any way that if I send you the pictures of the clothes that was also found in the bags, can you send it to your lab? And maybe we can get a lead on where he bought these clothes. I mean, these are obviously stretches, Jerry. These are the long-term cases where we're looking for a needle in a haystack here. I'm like, hey, send them to me. No problem at all. I will look at this.
So the clothing on the corpse was still...
There was some clothing on the corpse and there was some clothing in the bag as well. So there was clothing,
okay.
The body parts had clothing. There was clothing stuff in the bag as well. So I'm waiting for these pictures to come in. My A-lad, Ernie Wyand, is in there, and Ernie has really good experience. He used to work in Indian country, so he had good connections to the lab because a lot of murders in Indian country. So he was like, I said, Ernie, I'm going to send you some photos. Can you please get a hold of your lab person and see what we can do on that? Now, at the same time, my partner, Tom, is doing a really good job. And what he does is as the RSO, so they're the passport visa experts. So as passports, he is looking at all of the passports to say, hey, if Herbert Craig Lafon is using his name on these passports, who are the other people? Are they stolen passports? Are they people he killed? Like, what's going on? So Tom goes and finds, we send leads out, we call them leads, I guess. We send requests out to other police agencies in Bangkok. So the Brits, the Aussies, hey, we're going to send you these passports. Can you do the due diligence to see who these people were? But on the American passports, Tom goes and finds all of the people whose passports they are. And when we get passport photos, who are they actually? So what we do is as soon as Tom gets all these photos, he calls me down to his office and we begin to look at the photos. And we have the head of the frozen bodies there, and the head is still there. And one of the gentlemen there, one of the people on the passports, Charles Edward Diddleson, his picture looks very similar to the head that we have of the frozen body. Now it's 8 years old. It's discolored. It's what you can imagine after 8 years, but there are some similarities. The nose looks similar. We were taking a really hard look and saying, this could be him. Definitely not enough to call the Thai police and say we have it, but we were kind of curious. So then when my Royal Thai police colleague calls and says, hey, we're going to send you the clothes. I get the photos. I remember vividly opening the photos, and it's old. There's an old computer where the photos are kind of coming in slowly. And I'm looking as the photos are opening up. And I say to Ernie, we're good. We do not need the lab anymore. Because on the labels of the clothes, this gentleman, Charles Edward Diddleson, did the kind of thing my mom did when I went to camp. He wrote his name on the labels. So it said,
Wow.
it didn't say his full name. It said D-I-T-L. His name is Diddleson. It just said D-I-T-L-E. Wasn't great. I'm not surprised that Thais, their first language is not English, but it was written pretty illegibly, but I was able to see this looks like Diddle. So Charles Edward Diddleson. And then what really put it away was we did some research at the time on what businesses Charles Edward Diddleson was in. And he ran a company and he called it Cedco, C-E-D-C-O, Charles Edward Diddleson Company. And one of the polo shirts he had Cedco on the polo shirt. So because Tom and I did some research and we said, hey, any lawsuits, any court cases, we were able to find Cedco got sued years ago. So we were able to say, okay, the pictures look good. His face looks similar. We found Charles Edward Diddleson's one of the passports that we found and Diddle on the label. And then Cedco, then we were able to put together a document to go to the Thais and say, we have who it is. And then once we did that, we said, we're going to give you our preliminary analysis. We're 99% sure, but we found a sister of Mr. Diddleson in LA and we did a DNA test. And the DNA test, conclusively, we found the guy, Charles Edward Diddleson. So a case that began having no idea what nationality the shooter or the victim were, turns out both American. Really weird. I mean, more travelers from England and Australia and Russia go to Thailand. So both being Americans was very, very odd, but they were both Americans and we were able to put closure for the family of Charles Edward Diddleson, missing for 8 years. And the bad guy here, Herbert Craig Lafon, he got 44 years in prison, still in prison in Thailand to this day.
Yeah, that is really amazing. A case that starts off as a request for a passport that morphs into this international body parts in the freezer case. Again, something that you can only imagine happens when you are a legat in a foreign country.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a common theme. And I want to say some of your other guests have said this as well, but so many times I would say to myself, this is only, what have I gotten myself into? And this only happens here, or pinch me. This, a lot of, they do not teach this in the academy. A lot of those moments happen overseas much more than they happen domestically, I'm sure.
Well, I have two regrets from my career, things I wish I had done that I didn't do. One of them is to take a class through new agents training, but the other one was to have had an assignment overseas. I'm an Air Force brat, so I lived in Europe and, when I was a child, and I do a lot of traveling. I went after college, I lived in Switzerland for a year, and then I do a lot of traveling now with my family. So I really regret not knowing a lot about the legat program while I was an agent and pursuing one of those assignments.
Yeah, I mean, I think you as an Air Force brat, I mean, you were able to see it. I really grew up not traveling. And it's funny you say that because I always tell people I regret not taking advantage of a term abroad in college. I love overseas so much. I wish I began earlier. So I would only tell you this, Jerry, we're still young. You can still keep traveling and go overseas. So you still have opportunity to keep doing it. Because I really regret not going overseas. If I could do it again, I probably would have gone to university in Thailand. I love Thailand so much. So it's probably better I didn't find it because I think I'm happy that I had my other experiences. But yeah, this is the overseas life. We had a few years ago, Jerry, I think they stopped doing this, but agents over a period of time had to pick a career path. I don't think we do that anymore, but there was a career path time. People ask me, what was your career path or what would you specialize in now that you're retired? And I know from all your episodes, you're a white collar genius. You're an expert in white collar and everybody has those things. I really didn't have that, but I think I'm proud now to say that my expertise is liaison. It's international work. Like I said, jack of all trades, master of none. But I think my expertise now and in retirement, I'm still working as a consultant. I work for a risk management company, and all of my expertise is based on my ability to be overseas and do overseas work. So I wouldn't sit here and say that I'm an amazing terrorism agent or a drug agent or white collar crime. I think my expertise has become the ability to be overseas and work overseas.
You brought up the violation of white collar crime.
Hmm.
And I think we have enough time to talk about another case from your book. And I want to mention the book again, Beyond the Badge, Crime, Justice, and the FBI in Thailand. And that was a case involving a fraud, my area of interest. And so this was a fraud that occurred in the US where the perpetrators were in Thailand. Tell us about that.
Sure, yeah, and it's interesting as I said, I've listened to so many of your episodes, but one of your former guests, Scott Algenbaum, comes up in this as well. He was a great partner on this. So back when I was ALAT, it was, and I think the common theme here seems to be Friday nights, but it was a Friday evening. And I got an email from Scott Algenbaum out of the Memphis office, and he had said that a law firm in his AOR, in his area of responsibility, had contacted the FBI because around $500,000 had been scammed out of them. And Scott and I was pretty new, and I definitely had not worked these kind of frauds before. So Scott was and is the expert in this, and said, look, he understood that this was probably, the money's probably gone. And in previous episodes you've had, the theme usually is these kind of frauds is really, really difficult to get the money back. So he kind of managed my expectations and said, John, I'm contacting you because we never know. It's Friday night in Bangkok. So maybe with the weekend, we'll get lucky. So the law firm had lost some money. The scam was pretty intricate. I think now it's more common, but it was a law firm was contacted to assist in collecting a debt. And the law firm said, yes, we do that. We'll assist in collecting a debt. But from the law firm was the only part of this that was legitimate. The debt they were collecting from was from a bad guy, and the other law firm they were dealing with was also the bad guy. So the law firm was contacted, hired to collect the debt, and coincidentally, immediately after that, the law firm for the company said, hey, we know you're the new people in charge of the debt. We now want to pay. Immediately, we know you're in charge. We want to pay the debt. So we'll send the money to you. The company was going to collect the money. So the law firm said they're going to pay the debt. No problem at all. So the money goes into the law firm. And instead of waiting for it to clear, the mistake the law firm made was, with their internal money they have in their partnership or whatever money the law firm had, they immediately sent the $500,000 out instead of waiting. That was a mistake they admitted they made, but instead of waiting for it to clear, they trusted the debt collection happening. So the money came in and they sent money out before it cleared. Come to find out, about a day later, luckily they found out there was a fraud that they realized through the emails and contacts. They verified the money came out and they said, no, this is a fraud. So there was no money at all except they lost $500,000. So the contact to me was the money was being sent to a bank account in Thailand. The background to it wasn't as important to me, was the money is at a bank in Thailand, John. What can you do? That's what we sent it to a K bank in Thailand, called Casacorn Bank in Thailand. I said, okay, Scott gave me, the idea it'll probably be gone. So this is Friday night. So I contact the lawyer, tell him I'm going to try as best I can, talk to Scott. So Saturday morning, I decide very naively, let me just call the bank. Ask them, hey, is there any chance at all if they will tell me if the money is still there? I think in America, you'd have to go through so many different protocols and phone calls and OTPs nowadays and texts and all. But I called and said, look, I got the main, and luckily benefit of customer service. I think America, banks aren't open on Saturdays. A benefit in Thailand is it's mostly a 6-day week. So I knew when I called on Saturday that I might get somebody. So I contacted the bank and I said, hey, you're not going to believe me, but I'm an FBI agent. I did all this in English. My Thai was okay, but I asked for an English speaking representative just to make sure I got all this right. And I said, can you do me a favor? I am not asking for a number. I'm not asking for how much money is there. Can you just tell me if there is still money in the account? We're looking for about $500,000, but can you please tell me if it's there? And I put on hold, Jerry, I'm expecting sir, I can't help you with this. And then I was thinking, okay, then I'll call my Thai police colleagues. I'll try and figure out a best way for us to do this. It probably won't be till Monday, but I'll have to figure it out. The guy comes on the phone, the customer service says, sir, I can tell you this. All I can tell you is that a number similar to the number you gave me is in the account. So I'm thinking, whoa, this is great. Doesn't mean I'm going to get it. Doesn't mean the guys aren't going to go take it out right now, but I got a chance here. So I contacted Scott in Memphis and said, hey, once again, not saying we win this yet, but the money is still there. So he says, great, John, that's great. And at the same time, Scott told me that there is I knew this, there's a K bank outlet, Thai bank outlet in LA. So they're trying at the same time to try and pull the money back. I found out through this whole process that pulling money back is really hard. Once it goes out and it's been approved, it's very difficult to get it back. I didn't know that. So they're trying, and to fast forward, they couldn't get it called back at all. So I then this is on Saturday, I contact my Thai police colleague and say, and Jerry, I'm making it up as I go along. You're the white collar agent, didn't know what I was doing. So I said, you know what should we do next? I'm thinking if the money is still there, bank is closed now, it's Saturday, maybe, I know it's closed Sunday. So, hey, Monday morning, let's go to the bank and see who picks the money up. It's $500,000. You can't take it out of an ATM. Back in those days in Thailand, and still to this day, a lot of things are done in Thailand at the branch level. At the time, back when this happened, there is no chance they could have had this taken out, through a computer. They would have had to have gone to the bank, take the money out. I knew that. Let's go to the bank Monday morning. So I contact my Thai police colleague. John, what do you want to do? I said, I need your assistance. Let's get to the bank. It opens up at 8 a.m. Let's be there at 7:45. So Monday morning, we go to the bank. We're waiting outside and the bank opens up. A lot of people. It's a pretty busy area of Bangkok where it's the bank. Once the bank branch opens, it's busy, busy, busy all day. We walk in and we pull aside the bank manager and we say, look, this is what's going on. And he said, you guys are so lucky. The two African gentlemen who are sitting in the waiting area for me right now, they were here on Friday. So as soon as the money went out, they were here, but they forgot their bank book. And you have to have your bank book to take money out. So they couldn't go home in time to then come back. So we told them to come back Monday morning. So once again, you want to have a lot of luck in your life. We had a lot of luck here. So they had come back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, pure luck. They had come back Monday morning and we pulled the two guys aside. We asked the bank manager, can you bring them to the bank for whatever reason you need? They have to sign some papers. So me and the two other Thai police officers sitting there waiting for them, and they come back and we immediately say to them, it's pretty quick on these kind of frauds. They've never been confronted before. I think it's very few, agents and officers can say they actually got to sit down in front of one of these fraudsters and talk to them. But as you can imagine, they immediately began to lie and they said, oh, no, it's for a jewelry deal in our home country. We're just picking the money up for a jewelry deal. But what was consistent throughout was they wanted to get out of there. If it's $500,000 and it's actually your money, you're going to argue, you're going to yell, you're going to scream, you're going to call my lawyer. It's our money. They didn't care about the money. They were so scared of going to jail or being deported or what have you. They were more or less like, take the money, just let us go, which to me screams
that's
guilt.
A hint.
Yeah. Screams guilt. And it wasn't $30. It was $500,000.
Yeah, you can have it. Just let me out.
Let us out of here. So that was pretty obvious to us. So the good news is, I've luckily had one other of these cases where we were able to do a similar thing for a Thai police officer relative, and we were able to get the money back. That actually money coming to America, and we were able to do a similar thing. But actually, Scott and I have spoken recently when I talked about my book, and I said, you're going to be in the book. Is that okay? Kind of thing. And he said, John, I discuss this case all the time. So for him, who's really an expert in this, over the years, I've realized that it's not just a rumor. Getting money back is almost impossible. So it happened in my first case like this. We got the money back. So I probably got a little cocky thinking I can do this all the time. After that, I had many, many cases like this where money never got back. But one of the first cases that I did, we were able to get the money back. It's still, not knowing international banking laws, it still took months to get the money back in the hands of the law firm. They eventually got it back, but it still took, for me, the naive guy, I thought, I hit a button, it's back to him. It took months for the money to get back from Thailand back to the hands of the law firm in Nashville. But it was all a happy ending. They got the money back, and the Thai police wanted to know what I wanted to do with the two bad guys. And as you know, Jerry, a lot of the charges in the U.S. are based on financial loss. And really, it wasn't loss. Talking to the prosecutor and in Nashville, there wasn't really the stomach to get these guys back to America, do extradition, to do all these things and take them to court. So I was more or less, once the money was back, I told the Thais, what I want you to do is just deport them and put them on your immigration blacklist, what I would suggest, because these guys are obviously not here to assist in your economy or take advantage of the temples and the food here. So my suggestion is to deport them, which they did. So they didn't really serve any time for this in Thailand or the U.S. They just got deported.
Again, as a, white-collar crime, economic crime agent, I'm just amazed that the law firm got the money back. So it's definitely a case and a story that I wanted you to share if we had time. So I'm glad that we did.
Yeah, me too. I think it's good to cover. We've covered lots of different avenues. And really, that's the case that began in the U.S. And the two cases that I picked first were cases that were kind of, started in Thailand. So it's good we picked a case also that there was, what we said before, the number one thing we do overseas is leads. And that was a good case because it was also a lead from the U.S., kind of our bread and butter.
Very good. This has been fascinating, and you told the story of how you got to Thailand, but we haven't heard the story of how you became an agent in the first place. So I'm going to ask my standard question. When and why did you join the FBI?
So before the FBI, my first job was law enforcement. A year or two out of college, I was in the U.S. Border Patrol. My father, many, many years ago, told me, because my dad worked for NSA, National Security Agency, and he was a police officer and a U.S. Marshal before that, and always loved his job. I thought I wanted to be in sports, wanted to play sports first, but realized that that wasn't going to happen. So in college, my dad had said, you should look into law enforcement. And over the years, it was always kind of a backup plan. If I can't do X, then I can go into law enforcement. So in college, I decided I took the Border Patrol test. When I was in college back in 1993, there was a big job freeze in the government for law enforcement. So really the main job, the Border Patrol was hiring. So I went to the Border Patrol and I did that back in 1994. I started in the government and I'd been there about 2 years when the Attorney General, Janet Reno, flew down to my small Border Patrol station to do a press conference and discuss the wall and all these things. And I met an agent who was on her protective detail. And I'm telling you, Jerry, at the time, I was like anybody else. The FBI was Silence of the Lambs. It was the movies. I was in the Border Patrol. That was my career. I didn't know I could be an agent. It was still cool to me. Still is to this day. But at the time, I didn't think I could apply to the FBI. And the agent said to me, "You're a college graduate." Yes. He said, "Why don't you apply to the FBI? You need 3 years on the border and you can apply." So I called my dad and said, "Dad, can I go to the FBI?" He's like, "Of course you can." I said, "How come you never told me that?" So I began the FBI application process. It sounded great to me. I love being on the Border Patrol, but I think a logical step a lot of times from being a uniformed officer is the next thing you want to do is you want to do investigations. So I actually applied to DEA. I applied to other agencies, but the FBI was kind of the dream. And I was in the Border Patrol. I did 1 year between the Border Patrol and the FBI. I did get off the border. I went to Chicago working as a special agent with the Commerce Department. At the time, it was called the Office of Export Enforcement, OEE. It's called something different now, but I did that for a year while I was waiting for the FBI, as you know, the long process to get hired. And it was good for me. I wanted to get a little investigative experience. I was able to, at Commerce, work with the FBI a little bit more on some cases, and it made me want to go to the FBI even more. So that's how I got in the FBI, started other agency in the federal government, and then worked my way to the FBI.
All right. And we've heard the story about how San Francisco and how you ended up in Thailand and back to headquarters. But let's just take a moment to talk about what you're doing now and why you decided, even after the FBI, that you wanted to make Thailand your home. Is that the plan for the rest of your life?
I mean, rest of my life, I want to say yes. My wife is 90%, so I'll say probably. After being in Thailand for the 2 tours, I love it. I should work, my friends tell me I should work for the Tourism Authority of Thailand because I love the country and love the people. But one important thing is our son went to international school in Thailand. We moved there when he was 2 and he did most of his schooling. We did 1 year in Washington, D.C. He went to school in Virginia, but pretty much his whole life he was at international school. And my retirement date, he had a couple of years to go of high school. So the first thing we said is, we definitely want to stay and let him finish school in Thailand, finish with all his friends at international school. So that was the one reason we were definitely going to stay. Once he finished high school, we would decide. He's a good soccer player and he's now playing college soccer here. So we knew he wanted to go to school, to university or college in the US. But my wife and I spoke about it and said, we have so many friends here. It's 17 years now, but when I retired in 2019, it had been well over 10 years. We got there in 2008. So it had been 11 years when I retired. And really, Jerry, we made, like you would in any place in the US, we made so many friends. And to answer the question of what I'm doing now, I play ice hockey and you might think it's crazy to have ice hockey in Thailand, but I am the president of the largest expat ice hockey league in Bangkok. I joined the ASIS International, it used to be called ASIS International, which is a working group for security professionals that started in America, but it's worldwide now. I joined that after I retired and they asked me to be the chairman. So I'm the chairman of the ASIS chapter in Thailand. I run this hockey league. I have tons of friends. I was asked by a friend of mine to be a investor and a partner in a risk management company in Thailand, which I'm doing now. So to put it all into perspective, we have built a life in Thailand like you'd build in any city or state in America. So I think the answer is yes, we have a great life there. Friends, many, many friends. I have many opportunities, many jobs I'm working on in retirement, my social life, my athletic life. So really we built it there. And, my mom still lives in the States and my in-laws are here and our son is in college here. And we do travel. As I'm talking to you now, I'm in the US visiting our son in college. He plays soccer. So we're able to travel a lot, but we love it. And to answer the question in a long story longer, it is home and Thailand is home. We love it there.
Well, I can tell you that one thing that may change all of that, especially for your wife, is grandchildren. So just be prepared.
I'm going to have her not listen to this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. You're right. No, and we always have the caveat is, where is our son going to be? He's a sophomore now. When he graduates, where does he want to be? Our son he is kind of he's in the mix. So where is he going to be? That's the only thing I think that would probably change things, would be where is he going to end up? And that might alter our future decision. But Thailand will always be in our life. I would be surprised if we did move somewhere else, we wouldn't have some kind of property or something in Thailand to keep us there at least part of the year. Thailand gets in your blood. I really hope when you come visit, you'll see that and you'll see, wow, I can really see how people stay here for a long time. I will add one more thing to it, though, and this is the one thing that people always say, and when you meet people who have been expats who then ended up going back home, which is, as your parents age, that becomes an issue as well. My father passed away last year and I was home for a while with my mom, and you can't deny the fact that when family gets older or somebody gets sick, that also is a draw. And that is, we have a lot of friends who've been overseas longer than us. And when you ask them what brought them home, your grandchildren answer is one of the big ones, but also the older generation getting sick or needing your assistance. That's also pops up a lot too. And that becomes an issue for many people as well. And it may be for us as well.
Yeah, definitely. I can see that being a concern. And so of all of that experience and expertise and skill sets that you gained by being the FBI's representative in Thailand is now in a wonderfully written book, Beyond the Badge, Crime, Justice, and the FBI in Thailand. This episode is going to be posted the week before the book is actually published. When is the publication date for the U.S.?
So it'll be on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and in the U.S. on December 9th now. It'll be launched in Thailand on December 13th, but the U.S. launch will be on December 9th. So on December 9th, please, everyone put it in their calendar to go on to Amazon and purchase the book.
All right. Well, I like to give my guest the last word. So what would you like to say?
Jerry, I want to thank you. So I've listened to so many of your episodes, and my book's important, my stories are important, but all of this, and I think I speak for so many of the other guests you've had, what you're doing for, I think the American people is great, but really, if it hasn't been said to you before, what you're doing for retired and agents is so great. We all love our job so much that to be able to keep talking about it and hear about it, it makes us happy. And I want to thank you for what you do. I do want to say that I wrote the book for a couple of reasons. One major reason is I still think that I want American people to know what the FBI does overseas. Our domestic work is so famous. It's on TV and movies. But really, to this day, when I talk to American citizens, they say, wait, the FBI is overseas? You're not CIA? So I still get that. So I wanted to write this book for that. And also, the Thai police are some of the greatest police officers in the world. And they do, domestically and internationally, sometimes get a bad reputation. There is some unfortunate corruption in those things. But my book is to shine a light on the very, very amazing, good, great law enforcement work the Royal Thai Police has done and will continue to do. And there just hasn't been enough written on a positive about the Thai police. And I want to do that as well.
And that's the end of the interview. In your podcast app's description of this episode, there's a link to the show notes at jerrywilliams.com, where you'll find a photo of John Schachnovsky and links to case-related images and news articles about the death of actor David Carradine and those frozen body parts discovered in that freezer in Bangkok. There are also links to more FBI Case File Review episodes featuring the FBI overseas. I hope you enjoyed the interview and that you'll share it with your friends, family, and associates. You can show me just how much you liked it by buying me a coffee. There's a link in your podcast app's description of this episode, or you can visit jerrywilliams.com and tap on the little coffee cup icon in the bottom right-hand corner of my website. Don't forget to follow FBI Retired Case File Review on your favorite podcast app. Now, this podcast is all about true crime, but if you're also interested in crime fiction, once a month via my reader team email, I keep you up to date on the FBI and books, TV, and movies. When you join my reader team, you get access to my FBI reading resource, a colorful list of more than 70 books about the FBI written by FBI agents who have been guests on this podcast. There's nonfiction, crime fiction, true crime, and memoirs. You'll also get my FBI reality checklist, where I debunk 20 cliches about the FBI and receive news about what I'm up to and about my FBI nonfiction and crime fiction books. I want to thank you for listening to the very end I hope you come back for another episode of FBI Retired Case File Review with Jerry Williams. Thank you.